So the camogie is the lead story. Cork winning with a single by a single point against Kilkenny, their arch rivals in Croker yesterday. This is the lead on the Irish Times. Cork retained title after tight, nervy and dreary affair. O'Neill forced to reshuffle for Poland friendly. This is the fact that two players have gone home. John Walters, who obviously has his own history with Roy Keane, and Stephen Ward. Both of those have gone home injured. Queeveen Kelleher will not be playing. The young Liverpool goalkeeper who was part of the squad. He was just training with them. And Ronan Curtis, the Portsmouth striker, has been called up from the under-21s. He's suspended for the under-21s, so now might get a game for the seniors. That's how that's supposed to work, isn't it?
Yeah, well, he scored a late equaliser, didn't he, against Kosovo last week for the under-21s. So if you think there might be green shoots coming up at underage level after what happened during the summer and all that,
yeah,
late equalisers against Kosovo don't necessarily kind of whet the appetite for the future of Irish football either. Maybe we've got to wait till that under-17s team become men in a few years. He's
got 5 goals in 6 games for Portsmouth, though, so he is at least a striker in form. We don't have too many of those. And Justin Rose is on the verge of becoming the world number 1. Torrential rain ended up putting paid to the BMW Championships play yesterday. There is some hope that they'll play today. He's a shot clear of Rory McIlroy, but if they don't play today, then Justin Rose will become the world number 1. The Examiner taking aim. Aoife Murray frustrated by the negative views cycle in women's sport. We'll talk a bit more about that. Well, that's not today's. I was going to say, it's like, there you go. That's old news. So this one is definitely Monday, September the 10th, and it is the Cork camogie players on the front cover there. All-Ireland camogie champions Cork celebrate their win over Kilkenny, but it all proved a bit too much for 5-month-old Ty Scannell, who's the son of team member Breach Corkery. He's bawling his eyes out in the cup, and Rebel Yell is the headline on the back page. Ref comes under fire as Cotter holds her nerve to make it back-to-back All-Irelands. A good piece in the Times Ireland edition today from Christy O'Connor about inconsistency in refereeing, which is definitely something that I was trying to think, like, because at the All-Ireland football final you can't see at the game what happens in the match if you're at the match because they don't show replays.
Yeah.
So actually it's a much better experience being at home watching it. And I was like, what is it because they fear that there might be trouble in the crowd? I mean, we know that that's something that obviously was cited as one of the issues when the Newbridge fiasco happened.
Yes, of course.
So I mean, that might be a real thing. But actually, it's probably just to point out how crappy the refereeing is.
No, well, no, it's to do with the fact that the ref can't be assisted by video technology. So you're not, just in case the referee takes a little glimpse up when the replay is being shown, and therefore maybe given evidence to conclude and arrive at the conclusion of a correct decision. That's why it's not allowed. But speaking about it, that camogie final yesterday was just littered with poor decisions, which kind of comes from the rule book being crap. He was one of the, by all accounts, the referee who ref yesterday was one of the top 2 referees in the game, just not helped by the fact that it's essentially a non-contact sport, which is nonsense really. If it follows the sort of kind of semi-contact rules of hurling, at least the referee can do what the hurling referees do and just don't referee the game at all, just let it flow, and at least on that basis you can be a hell of a lot more consistent than the consistency or lack thereof we saw yesterday.
Yeah. Brian Kerr, speaking last night on Virgin Media Sport, has surgically destroyed the FAI and Martin O'Neill and the general lack of leadership at the top of the organisation. We've no leadership at the top. The people are the same for the last 20 years. Many of them are too old to understand how to direct the operation right now. It's not just the FAI, though. He says, Martin O'Neill says he's got nothing to do with the underage development. I would dispute that. It's his job to be part of the whole structure and create a mentality for the players. Wales aren't losing their young English-born players like Ethan Ampadu. Martin has a gang of fellas around him like Steve Guppy and Steve Walford. I don't know what they're all doing to have an impact. I mean, Guppy and Walford are the coaches. So Keane is kind of there as like a motivational speaker.
He's assistant to the manager. Whatever Martin O'Neill requires. He
seems to be having an impact on the wrong way. Do you want to very quickly just do that Roy Keane story, and we'll get a flag now and we'll come back to it a little bit later on?
Yeah, the Sun and the Daily Mail, Neil O'Riordan and Philip Quinn with this story this morning.
If you have any little ears in the car, you might want to put your hands over them for a second.
Yes, I'll read out the first sentence from Neil O'Riordan's piece in the front of the Sun. This is definitely the time when you cover up your ears. Harry Arter was called a prick and a wanker by Roy Keane during their June row. There's plenty more in the article, but that is very much the cliff note, and the exact details of this row has come out as to what exactly Martin O'Neill said. So Martin O'Neill can be expected to be grilled in Poland today, says Philip Quinn in his piece. The two of them, I'm sure it's something that a lot of the press corps have been aware of, but the Sun and the Irish Daily Mail have gone ahead and printed it this morning. So that's the extent of the vitriol we heard from Roy Keane towards Harry Arter. What was also said is that he's apologised in the past when he stepped out of line.
I have a vague recollection of that now. I couldn't remember the specific incident, but I remember there was something one time about Malahide. Is that ringing any bells?
Not ringing any bells for me. It's not mentioned in the specific piece, but on this occasion he clearly hasn't felt he's crossed the line because he hasn't apologised, it seems. Or
certainly it hasn't led to an apology yet.
Just go through some of the other back pages. We were going through these earlier on. The big story, particularly from the tabloids, is in the Irish Sun this morning and also in the Irish Daily Mail. The heat is on, reads the headline in the Irish Daily Mail this morning. Intense scrutiny on O'Neill as details of alleged row leaked. So we brought you that earlier on. The Irish assistant manager is alleged to have told Arter he didn't rate him as a player and that he'd never give him a game if he was in charge. And again, sensitive ears here, he called him a prick and a wanker, and that's also carried in the Sun as well. Roy's rage, X-rated Keane went in hard on Harry. That's they're extraordinary details, really. It's great that the actual terms have come out here. I guess that is a line. Once those words are used, like if I was Harry Arter, that's probably a line crossed. You know, you could use other words, maybe like dickhead, shithead.
That'd be fine.
That'd be fine.
Prick and wanker is
like that. That's the exact blurring of the line here. That's the exact moment when it goes. That's probably just a little bit too far.
It depends. I mean, you good-naturedly call people names all the time in real life. One does.
Well, yeah, one does. Like you could call people names. Like it would be probably.
Don't be a. Would be fine.
Yes, it's obviously in the context of this. Or if, like, they were having a game of cards and, you know, Harry Arter pulled a quick one and Roy Keane's like, you prick.
Yeah, totally fine. That's legit.
I'm sure it was in much more serious circumstances than that.
As opposed to, you think you're a player, if you wouldn't be in my team, you prick.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, like, we can only speculate about what context it was used, but it certainly seems, these are well-placed sources here, that those words were indeed used. And I can only trust that they were used in a way that Harry Arter felt that's actually not just banter, to use Richard Key's phrase.
You're the assistant manager.
Yeah, actually, you've got a position of power there.
You're picking the team, or involved in the picking of the team here.
Like, he's obviously moved on from Roy Keane, and now he's working under Neil Warnock at
I mean, come on. So he's not a shrinking violet either.
No.
So, like, did he fire back?
Well, it doesn't seem that. It seems that...
Can I just say, imagine Johnny Walters being called a prick and a wanker by Roy Keane. He is straight back to him, going, and you are whatever... Like, so, you know, and there is some merit to what Martin O'Neill is saying about Johnny Walters showed up. It's like, come on, this is just an argument in football. Like, stuff happens in the dressing room. Now, Keith was very good on this on the Keith Andrews show last Wednesday. Normally it's on a Thursday, but it was on Wednesday because of the Ireland game last week, where he was saying that you do have these rows all the time, but you tend not to have them with the assistant manager. There is a kind of a different role for the managerial team whose job it is to actually, you know, say, get out there and kill them, come on.
Yeah, like, does the manager look at this between players? Say if those words were exchanged between players, does he look at that and say, that's passion, that's good, I like it?
Yeah.
But maybe, like, what's the difference between it happening between players and happening between, like, a staff member and a player? Obviously, there should be kind of a different coach-player relationship, sort of a mentor-mentee relationship in the whole thing, rather than one of kind of mutual aggression. But it seems to have tipped into the latter there, which is sort of an unusual one for any setup. But maybe this setup is just unusual. Maybe the fact that Roy Keane is your assistant manager means that this is going to be no ordinary setup. This isn't like the usual standards by which an assistant manager is judged doesn't apply to Roy Keane, given the character that he is. When is Roy Keane at his best? When he's at his fieriest. But maybe at his fieriest best doesn't necessarily apply to a coaching role. Maybe that was the best way to get the best out of a player, Roy Keane. So, I don't know, maybe Martin O'Neill is looking at Roy Keane as if he was his manager as a player, rather than as his manager when he's his assistant.
So how do we get out of this?
How does the situation resolve?
Yeah.
Well, like, if that's the worst that was used, it's like an expletive that is kind of thrown about. Like, it might just be kind of like a trigger word you have when you're pissed off at somebody and you use that word. It's nothing overly personal, dare I say. Like, would you be personally offended if that was said to you?
I mean, I'd kind of be excited of getting called prick and a wanker by Roy Keane. Yay!
Yeah,
I'm joining an illustrious club here.
There's obviously a sense of an achievement, given that you're not a professional footballer, and then suddenly Roy Keane's calling you prick and a wanker. Like, that'd be amazing. But in the context of you being Harry Arter, would you be offended? Like, I'm not sure everybody would be. Like, you're kind of taken aback by it, and there's something bemusing about it. And it is, I guess you could say, it is disrespectful. But maybe over a period of time, you're like, well, actually, he wasn't being overly personal there. It was kind of how he views his professional relationship when he's annoyed with a player, and maybe I've just got to get on with that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being too kind to Roy Keane.
What else have we got?
It is Ireland actually dominating the back pages this morning. As I say, they are the only 2 pages to lead with those 2 words. The Herald Sport is O'Neill's striker crisis for Poland. So this is Curtis called up for friendly as options narrow. You've also got the All-Ireland Junior Camogie final there. Dublin, the champions, beating Kerry on a 112-6 scoreline. That is the Herald. The Mirror then this morning is Curt reply. Ex-Derry star Ronan glad to answer Ireland's call as striker crisis bites. And you've also got the Camogie story there. It's a brilliant photo of Ty Scannell, son of Cork's breach corkery in the O'Duffy Cup yesterday after their Camogie All-Ireland win. No direction, says the back of the Irish Daily Star. FAI leadership is a shambles and system failure stems from the top. And you've got tears of joy for Rebelettes. And Serena's €15,000 slap on wrist. So a $17,000 fine for her behaviour flushing meadows at the weekend.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much it. That's just a supplement from inside the Irish Daily Mail. O'Neill puts under 21 ace Curtis into pole position.